This is RTV6 News at 5:30, working for you.
And now at 5:30, with more people out of work than ever due to the pandemic, the resume is important. Hiring Hoosiers career coaches have the secrets to success today.
Here's what we're talking about today on our lineup. A man who was once a founding member of what became the largest skinhead gang in the world. He is now working to pull others away from the hate. We will tell you what changed his life. COVID-19 waivers could be coming from colleges now. What one attorney's advising before you sign one, and what puts you at a greater risk for COVID-19, spending an hour at a playground or grocery shopping. Well, we're talking to the people behind a new chart ranking activity safety.
I'm Amanda Starantino. Hiring Hoosiers has been working for more than a year to help you and your family find jobs and make career changes. And that mission is more important than ever as we deal with the impact of the coronavirus pandemic. Today, we are getting answers to some of the most common questions about resumes. It's time for your Hiring Hoosiers career coaches.
Should you include a list of references on your resume? Actually, no. This is not necessary. Why not? Use the space on the page to highlight you. List your skills and accomplishments, and don't waste important resume space by stating that references are available. This is generally assumed. If you'd like, you can create a separate list of references to have on hand, so if the hiring manager asks you, you'll have it. So who should you ask for a recommendation? Ask your past managers, supervisors, and former work employees. They will be able to talk about your work skills and talents. What if you have little or no work experience? No problem. Your teachers, coaches, pastors, and counselors will be happy to give you a great recommendation. Include managers of any organizations where you are a member or have volunteered. Once you've made your list, choose 3 or 4 people who you think would give you the best reference. Be sure to place the name of each person, their title, organization, phone number, and email address. Start your list with the most impressive or important reference. Next, it's always best to contact the person to ask them to be your reference. This can be done in person, by phone, or email. This is a good time to have a personal conversation. Let them know the types of positions you're seeking and the skills needed for that job. You need to ask ahead so your reference will have some time to prepare. This will remind them of all your good qualities, skills, and abilities.
And for more resume and interview tips and to apply for jobs that are available right now, head to hiringhoosiers.com. Kevin, it looks nice outside now.
It is beautiful in the Indy area as we had the thunderstorms. Now we've moved on to some sunshine. Love this view, though. You're looking to the north, and you can see some building cumulus clouds eventually turning into the towering cumulus clouds that are producing nearly constant lightning in spots and heavy rainfall. Follow the lightning here. You can see it light up. That's in Hendricks County. We'll take a closer look here. What was over Marion County has fizzled. This is bringing some very heavy rainfall, and you can hardly see where Pittsburgh would be. Here's Brownsburg. You get to Pittsburgh and then Liston, anywhere along Interstate 74. It should be quite noisy in the Brownsburg-Pittsburgh area with that torrential rainfall. We'll watch this blossom as well, just to the southwest of Crawfordsville, near Alamo, and north of Waveland, out in Vetersburg, some rain just south of you. 80 in Indy, we're bouncing back up after that rain-cooled temperature earlier. 88 in Logansport, temperature in Monticello at 85. Notice the winds are very light. That plays into the heavy rain potential because there's no steering current to move the weather systems along. There's no one driving this car either. Tomorrow morning, some patchy fog. It's a dry start, but look, by 9 a.m., we're already well into the 80s.
Demand for personal protective equipment is increasing as we see more COVID-19 cases. A group of public health and medical groups want the Senate to include a plan to create a central, transparent system for getting and sending out medical supplies in the next stimulus package. Project N95 is a nonprofit helping fill the gap in getting PPE to frontline workers.
It's not simply just around the product themselves, but as well around the raw materials that go into them. So whether it's the melt blown materials that provide the barrier protection that often are seen in respirators or even in isolation gowns, those continue to be difficult to source and find because it is a raw materials question as well.
Project N95 works as a clearinghouse for PPE. Frontline workers say what they need, suppliers submit the products they have, and then the nonprofit connects them.
The reoccurring theme that we often see is that these practitioners, these frontline workers, they know that the various different types of PPE is out there, but often they're in a position where they aren't part of a large healthcare system or some other entity to have access. And even if they do have access to it, that they effectively simply just can't afford it because there are such outrageous price gouge prices still.
The head of the White House Supply Chain Task Force recently defended the government's efforts, saying he estimates from speaking with health leaders that 70% of states have at least 30 days of protective gear in reserve. But he says the federal government still doesn't have specific state data on PPE supplies, which is impacting projections on the anticipated demand. Now, people who aren't showing symptoms may account for half of the country's COVID-19 cases. This is according to a new study from the National Academy of Sciences. Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms is one of those who've tested positive without symptoms.
This is scary. We've done all the things that we thought that we should do, and for us to still test positive, I think really speaks to how easily this virus is spread.
Johns Hopkins University reports the number of known cases in the U.S. doubles roughly every month. Former White House medical advisor says about 20% of people will need to be hospitalized. All right, let's get back to our lineup. And what's putting you at a greater risk for COVID-19? Well, a new chart ranking activities is getting attention as we try and navigate how do we stay safe. We're going to talk to the people behind this.
Spray, wipe, rinse.
Right now on RTV6, protests continue after a video showed a startling incident. A group accused of committing racially motivated violence at Lake Monroe. This is in Bloomington, where activists are planning their second night of protests. They had always planned the protests to be peaceful. However, RTV6 was there last night when a car drove through and hit some of those protesters, causing injury. At last check, police were still searching for the driver who hit the protesters. We'll have the latest on everything from our Cameron Riddle, who saw that happen last night. That's coming up here at 6. Chris.
The nation's top infectious disease doctor is reminding us this is still just the beginning of the coronavirus pandemic.
We are still knee-deep in the first wave of this. We went up, never came down to baseline, and now we're surging back up. So it's a serious situation that we have to address immediately.
More than 30 states are now experiencing a rise in new cases. Public health experts say some of those states are now past the point of no return when it comes to the ability to control outbreaks and contact trace. A new tool is hoping to make it easier for people to understand what sort of activities put you more at risk of contracting COVID than others. Take a look at this chart. It's from the Texas Medical Association, and it ranks common activities based on how much. Group polled medical experts from several specialties to list them on a scale of 1 to 10. Look at going to the grocery store. That carries a pretty low risk because there are so many precautions in place at supermarkets. But you think of a bar, different situation. People typically are not wearing masks, especially when they're eating and drinking.
They are generally in an enclosed area. That makes it much more risky. They might be talking a little louder in a bar, or singing, or things like that, shouting, where the aerosol or the little droplets that contain the virus are much more likely to spread.
TMA says this guide is meant to be just that, really just a general guidance guide. Takes into 5 factors like, is the activity in an enclosed area? How close are you to other people? How much time are you going to spend there? Now, they do say common sense will really help you answer a lot of these questions, but the visual can really help. All right, let's get back to our lineup. An incredible story here. A former skinhead gang member talking about turning away from a life of hate.
At one point, I had a swastika on this middle finger, specifically so that if people want to get in my face and they're hostile to me, I can show it to them.
We will show you who this man is today and how he is using his past to pull others away from those beliefs.
City Furniture.
What drives a person to hate someone else because of the color of their skin? One man knows the answer to that because he used to live a life of hate, but now he's on a journey to change those who are holding on to those hateful beliefs. Tattoos can tell you a lot about who a person is.
It's been quite a journey for the tattoos that I have.
Arno Michaelis still has one left from who he was.
The one remaining racist tattoo I have is this. In between my fingers here, it says Rahowa in Norse ruins, which means racial holy war.
As a teenager in the late 80s, he was a founding member of what became the largest racist skinhead gang in the world. The frontman for a white power metal band.
At one point, I had a swastika on this middle finger, specifically so that if people want to get in my face and they're hostile to me, I can show it to them.
He preached hate and white supremacy, an ideology believed to have grown 55% since 2017 in the U.S.
Believes that white people are different than everyone else and superior to everybody else and threatened by everyone else.
For 7 years, that is who Arno Michaelis was.
I've since had the swastika removed. It was covered up with this tattoo, Love Wins.
In 1994, as a single father, he says he woke up.
It finally hit me that if I didn't change my ways, death or prison was going to take me from my daughter.
Today, he uses who he was to pull others from that hate.
Today, I intentionally practice a story that says human beings have more in common than different. With that story defining my relationship with the world, it's a life where everywhere I go, I see family.
And as we talked, a chance encounter with an old friend proved that.
Aaron, are you Aaron?
I'm Arno, actually.
I know. Carrie, right? You know Carrie?
Carrie Yiki.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's Marley. Who was with her son, your friend?
Oh, my goodness.
Marley,
with Emery.
Since you were a baby with Emery, your best friend from your old... Yeah. He has photos with you. I told her, how are you? Good to see you. Oh, my gosh.
Be like, this kid, like, shines a light on the world. Thank God for him. What how lucky are we to have this kid here like that?
Arno plans to put a larger tattoo over that final racist one on his body. But unlike ink that can be covered up, he says the issues our society now faces must be confronted.
It's a beautiful thing that people are waking up to the suffering that race has caused our fellow human beings.
Meanwhile, another Confederate general statue in Richmond, Virginia was removed today. For now, it's going to an undisclosed location in storage. But the question is, what should happen to these monuments long term? The head of the Atlanta History Center says museums aren't necessarily always the answer.
They're also intended to command a space and to send a certain message. And some of that is lost, and some of that can overpower everything else that's in the vicinity of them.
Sheffield Hale says some Confederate statues are simply just too large and heavy for museums. Also, museums don't want to be a place for cast-offs. He thinks quarantining these monuments for a bit is a good idea, then having a discussion later about what to do.
And we can talk about what they really are and look at perspective, because it's not about the zero-sum gain anymore. Should they stay or should they go? It's about, okay, what do we do with them now and what stories do we tell? And for us, just tell the truth.
Now, we've seen various things happen already to Civil War monuments. For example, the old Mississippi flag will go to a history museum. Others were moved to private property or cemeteries. In Dallas, a Robert E. Lee statue was even auctioned off. It went for more than $1 million last year.
Thousands of students in Brownsburg will be required to wear masks this upcoming semester. The Brownsburg Community School District announced that masks will not be optional and will be worn at all times with the exception of lunch and special instruction by the teacher. They are also offering an online option, but you must enroll by this Friday. You can find more on their semester plans with a link to that application on our website at theindychannel.com. And today marked the groundbreaking on efforts to better address growing needs in Indianapolis. The St. Vincent de Paul Boulevard Place food pantry is expanding. Leaders say they need the extra space so that they can keep people from getting too cramped or waiting too long, and the need is growing.
Well, the need is huge. You don't even realize there are lots of places that people can get food, but they come here because they're comfortable with us. And we're not here to judge anybody. We're just here to serve. That's all we're here to do. And so since the pandemic began, the need is huge.
Mayor Joe Hogsett says the 1,500-foot expansion will help the pantry get a better foothold in the community. Kevin?
A thunderstorm with a foothold in Hendricks County. It's a severe thunderstorm, 60-mile-per-hour winds, maybe some quarter-size hail. You can see you've got sunshine around this storm that sits near Pittsboro now. Here's the warning area from Brownsburg to Pittsboro to Liston, and then north along State Road 39 toward Lebanon. That's in effect until 6:15. Look at all the lightning with this. Maybe you're getting the lightning show, but not under the storm itself. When this water-loaded air comes down to the ground, rushes down, that's where you get these strong gusts. 58-mile-per-hour winds designate severe storm. And again, we may have some hail with this. Let me take the lightning out. You can see the core, the darker colors of the heavy rainfall, which I'm sure is exceeding an inch in an hour's period of time. This is moving at maybe 10 miles per hour, kind of to the northwest, and sits over northern Hendricks County and southern portions of Boone. Not the only storm on radar this evening. This is not severe, just west of 231, Montgomery County, southwest of Crawfordsville, and another south then of Veedersburg in Fountain County. Larger picture so you can see where you live and where the rain sits. If you're hoping for rain, you may see a thunderstorm develop this evening. Your best chance will be Friday, because I think they'll be more widespread then. Temperatures either in the low 90s or around 80 degrees, depending on the most recent thunderstorms and your proximity to current thunderstorms. Tomorrow we do it all over again. The afternoon hours, we heat up, thunderstorms flare up, temperatures in the low 90s.
Let's start the news feed. Employers are rehiring furloughed workers. That's the good news. It's helping cut down double-digit unemployment rates that we saw in May and June. But there's a new study out from industry leaders saying that a second wave's economic impact could really be lessened if people just follow the proper precautions, like wearing masks. Speaking of which, retailers, they want masks to be mandatory. Retail Industry Leaders Association wrote a letter to governors in states asking for that. Of course, the White House says it will not put in a federal mandate for masks. The biggest U.S. airlines are looking for more government help. United, Delta, JetBlue, Southwest, among those who are signing letters of intent for government help. United says it's worried that the latest surge in cases that we've seen could really impact bookings and hurt a travel rebound. Being a family caregiver is extremely stressful. That stress, it's even greater during this pandemic. And a new national volunteer program is looking to help those who are caregivers and those who are older adults or people with disabilities who live by themselves. Today, the Community Care Corps is granting nearly $2.5 million to 20 local programs nationwide. We have them highlighted on the map you see right here. Nearly 200 organizations in nearly every state applied for the grant money that was approved by Congress.
We're looking for all sorts of people because the volunteer services themselves can be all sorts of different assistance. For instance, it can be transportation to and from the doctor's office. Some people are good at that. Grocery shopping, minor home repairs like putting in grab bars in the shower or changing light bulbs.
The CEO of the Caregiver Action Network, who is part of this national program, says there was already a great need and a demand for volunteer assistance for older adults and caregivers before this pandemic, but that need has grown even more.
Any family caregiver needs a chance occasionally to take a break, to recharge their batteries. They may feel guilty about doing so, but they shouldn't, because unless you re-energize, there's no way you can be strong enough to care for your loved one. So a volunteer who can help, watch or be with the person who's being cared for 4 hours on a Saturday or 1 day a month makes all the difference.
The Community Care Corps wants to see which types of volunteer programs it funds have the biggest impact. Now, then it wants to help duplicate these across the country. If you'd like to volunteer, you can get connected at communitycarecorps.org. All right, next in our lineup, a COVID-19 waiver could be a new part of the college experience come fall. What you should know before you sign any waiver.
Or visit benbuysindy.com.
From gyms to the NFL, they're all asking people to sign waivers to keep businesses from getting sued if someone does get sick. Legally, it's unclear if these forms really carry any weight, but Chris Conti is showing us how colleges and universities might be next for these.
College campuses across the country have largely sat empty for months now. Come fall, though, as schools consider whether to bring students back, they're also considering their legal obligations.
They are a business that needs revenue to function.
As an attorney, Chris Feudo has been advising folks about those COVID-19 waivers. They gained national notoriety leading up to the president's rally in Tulsa last month. Businesses have also been turning to these forms in hopes of freeing themselves from legal responsibility if someone catches the virus.
You're not going to find out whether it's enforceable until somebody gets sick and sues.
The next round of waivers could be coming from colleges and universities. Many have already mandated student athletes start signing the forms. Students returning to empty campuses could be next.
I don't know if it was my kid. I don't know if I would have them sign something.
Here's why he says that. A COVID waiver means a family could lose any rights to seek compensation if a student gets sick at school. And there's something else for schools to consider.
It's sending a message that the college or university is returning people where there's still a substantial risk.
Chris's advice, don't sign anything unless you have an attorney read it over. And even then, he's skeptical any of these waivers will hold up in court.
A waiver is not part of a strategy to limit the spread of COVID-19.
Just another unknown added to the complicated puzzle of a nation trying to rebound. I'm Chris Conti reporting.
Chris, thank you. Voters in some state primaries this year have experienced long lines and problems with voter rolls. Tomorrow, we'll tell you what voting rights groups say needs to be done before the November election.
Here's the strongest storm in central Indiana. Thunderstorm warning for Hendricks County from Pittsboro on up toward Lebanon in Boone County. We'll do more analysis on that and talk about the rest of the evening for you straight ahead. That's all for the news at 5:30. The news at 6 starts right now.